Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing a book haul. Normally when I do my book hauls, I like to rank them in some fun, silly way. However, this time, as I was going through all of the books, I realized that almost every single book comes in like a pair or a set. So I thought that instead of ranking them this time, I'd just do kind of like book pairings. So let's just get into it. We have a lot of books to go over. The first pairing are these three books. They are all cozy mysteries. I am embarking on like a cozy mystery journey because of how much I love cozy fantasy. I have really been wanting to dive into cozy mysteries, and these are a few of the ones that I have gotten recently. These two I have already read. So we have In the Company of Witches by Orly Wallace. This is a book following a girl and her two aunts who are all witches, and they run a B&B, and one of their guests ends up mysteriously dying. They need to figure out who did it, and the main character is able to talk to ghosts. I just read this in a blog on Patreon. And then Shady Hollow follows a town of like woodland creatures. A grumpy toad turns up dead, and the main character, who is a fox journalist, tries to figure out what happened. These are both very cute. I feel very similarly so far with all of the cozy mystery that I've read, that they're all kind of 3 stars and I'm enjoying them, but I haven't found any that I've really loved yet, so I'm still exploring the genre. And I have A Most Agreeable Murder by Julia Seals. This one I haven't read yet. This is like a Regency murder mystery where somebody drops dead at a ball, and I do have very strong hopes for this one. The next set are books that I literally ordered a year ago, and I have been highly anticipating them, and that is the Fairy Loot set of the Poison Study series by Maria V. Snyder. This is one of my all-time favorite series. I read this over 10 years ago and I'm still obsessed with it. To me, it is like the OG fantasy romance, and I'm so happy that there's finally beautiful copies of these books, because all of the other editions of it, let's be honest, they're pretty tragic. So we have Poison Study, the first book, Magic Study, and Fire Study, and they are all beautiful with these gorgeous sprayed edges. And then all of the hardcovers have character art on them. I just love them, and they were definitely worth the year-long wait. These follow a main character who is in prison for murder, and she's about to be executed, but instead she gets offered that she can forego her execution if she will become the food taster of the commander to taste his food in case anyone poisons him. She obviously accepts that, and then has to be trained in different poisons so that if the commander is poisoned and she eats the food, she is able to say what the poison was before she dies. So she has to train and like taste all these different poisons, and she has a romance with the guy who is training her. It is quintessential fantasy romance. It is the OG, and I've reread it many times. Next up, I have 2 N.K. Jemisin books, and that is The Broken Kingdoms and Kingdom of Gods. These are books 2 and 3 in the Inheritance trilogy. Book 1 I read a few years ago and I loved, and I have been seeking out these editions because they have redesigned the covers for them, and I couldn't find the ones that matched my first book. These take place in a kingdom in the sky where gods have been enslaved. Book 1 I loved, and I've been dying to read the other books in the series. I believe that it's a series of companion stories. I'm excited to finally be able to read the other 2 stories. The next 2 books I have are the first and second in the Thursday Murder Club series. This is another series that people recommended to me when I asked for cozy mystery recommendations, and I have very high hopes for these. I was able to find both of them used. From what I know, these are mystery books following a group of friends in a retirement community who meet together to discuss unsolved crimes, and then they start investigating like a real crime that's happening. It sounds super fun, and I've just heard really great things about the series, so I am excited to dive in. Also, there's just something like so aesthetically pleasing about the spines together. I don't know, like they just look so good together. I am excited to have them on my shelf. The next pairing are 2 arcs of my most anticipated books of next year. I literally cannot believe that I have these in my hands. So the first one that we have is Evocation by St Gibson, who St Gibson is the author of my favorite book, A Dowry of Blood, and this is her new book that is coming out next year. The fact that I have this in my hand, literally, I'm still in shock. This takes place in a magical Boston where there are secret societies and hierarchical magic. It's following a main character, David, who is a medium. There is a familial curse that is threatening him, and he has to get help from his ex-boyfriend, who happens to be a sorcerer, and also his ex's astrologer wife. If it is even a fraction as beautiful as A Dowry of Blood, I'm going to love it. And then the other arc I have is A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle L. Jensen. This is a Viking Norse mythology inspired fantasy romance that sounds amazing. I have loved everything that I've read from Danielle L. Jensen, so I cannot wait. And I've been dying for more like Viking fantasy books. I read a Viking Omegaverse recently, and I just loved the vibes to it. So this is about a woman named Freya who is married to a really terrible man, but she dreams of becoming a warrior, and then her husband ends up betraying the Jarl, which lands her into a fight to the death against his son Bjorn. To survive, she is forced to reveal her deepest secret, and that's that she has goddess blood in her veins, which makes her a shield maiden with magical abilities to repel any attack. It sounds so good. I cannot wait to read this one. The next three books that I have are all Illumicrate editions. This whole year, I've kind of been sampling out different subscription boxes to see which ones I like. I did Fairy Loot for a while and I wasn't loving it, so I've now switched to Illumicrate, and these are the past 3 months of books. A Study in Drowning by Ava Reed, which is a YA dark academia story about like academic rivals, a magical book. This book is gorgeous. I love these. And then the Naked hardback is so beautiful. Like, I just really love this architectural design on it. Then we have Zara, Guardian of Dawn by S.J. Jones, which is about a world that is dealing with a magical plague. And this one has been compared to like Sailor Moon. And I also love these sprayed edges, and the naked hardcover of this looks like a manga. It is so beautiful. The newest one that I've gotten is After the Forest by Kel Woods. This one, I love these sprayed edges. If you look closely, there's a little bear in the middle, which is so cute. This one is like a grown-up Hansel and Gretel, like after they have defeated the witch in the woods. Greta has secretly kept the witch's grimoire, and it has been whispering secrets to her all of these years, and she's been kind of like slowly being corrupted by the dark magic. Sounds really cool, and I love the foiling on this edition. This one also has a very beautiful naked hardcover. It's made to look like a grimoire. I love the details. So those are my Illumicrate books. I'm thinking like once I have gotten enough of like a good like sample size of different book subscription boxes, I want to do like a whole deep dive into all of the different subscription boxes and which ones I think are worth it or better than others, but I'm not quite there yet. So actually, if you guys have any recommendations of other book boxes that I should check out, please let me know. The next 2 books that I have are among my prized possessions. So first up, we have the original edition of the Mindfuck series by S.T. Abbey, which you guys know is like one of my top all-time favorite books ever. This follows a girl who becomes a serial killer in order to get revenge on the men who destroyed her life. It is just the best revenge story I have ever read in my life. I just a couple months ago reread it, and I did a whole deep dive on my Patreon, and it was just so much fun to really dive into the story. So then the other book that I have, this quite literally is my most prized possession. That is the Mystic Box edition of the Mindfuck series. This is just so beautiful. The sprayed edges are stunning. Like, this book is beautiful all around. I am obsessed with it, in love with it, and this is proudly being displayed on my favorites shelf. The next 2 are books that I read in my Reading Authors Scariest Book Recommendations video. Oh my god, don't tell me this entire book is gonna be about fishing. Can we get back to the fishing? because that's more interesting than this. I don't think I like it. I'm not having a good time. I'm not live, laugh, loving. And that is The Fisherman and Annihilation. These were both recommended from T. Kingfisher as her scariest horror books, and they had very mixed results. Annihilation is about an area called Area X that has been cut off from the rest of society. The government has been sending in different research teams to go into Area X and document what they find there, but every single team that goes in ends up dying in one way or another. And then The Fisherman is a cosmic horror story about these two men who go fishing and discover something in the water. It was very interesting, I think, to read like one specific author's scariest book recommendations, because I feel like I learned a lot about T. Kingfisher from doing that experiment and see the different ways that I think that they have influenced her own writing. The next set are all Elsie Silver books. They're all part of the Chestnut Springs series. So I have the new printings of Heartless and Powerless, and then I have the last book in the series, Hopeless. This is like becoming one of my favorite romance series ever. I do need to finish the series, but I'm just kind of slowly making my way through them because I don't want them to be over. But Heartless so far is my favorite romance of the year. I've read it twice this year. This series literally changed my mind about romance. There were so many different tropes and things that I thought I hated, and so far Elsie Silver has made me love all of them, and I think it is a very good example of it's not the trope, it's the author. The next three are all horror novellas. I actually bought all of these for a specific video that I didn't end up having time to do. I might do it sometime in the future or just read these for something else, but we Need to Do Something by Max Booth. This one is about a family that find themselves isolated in their bathroom during a tornado warning. The Worm and His Kings by Haley Piper. This one takes place in New York in the 1990s, where a bunch of women have gone missing, and there is a taloned monster in the city's underground that snatches victims into the dark. And then I have Gone to See the Riverman by Christopher Triana. This one is about a woman who is obsessed with this serial killer, and then he starts giving her tasks to do for him. I really love horror novellas, and I've run out of ones to read because I've read all the ones that I own. So I have now stocked back up with my novellas. The next two that I have are part of the same series, and that is King of Pride and King of Greed by Anna Huang. These are the second and third books in her Kings of Sin series that are all following like billionaires. I haven't started the series yet, but I've just been hearing so many amazing things about it that I'm excited to binge it whenever I do. The next ones are all Sophie Lark books. So I have Stolen Heir and Savage Lover. These are books 2 and 3 in her Brutal Birthright series. I have read both of these. I love Stolen Heir. I think this one is my favorite in the series. This is a mafia series. However, they feel more like mafia adjacent. I would say that Stolen Heir is probably like the most mafia of the series. This one is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. This one is more of like a heist story, so it feels a lot less mafia. You're just following characters who happen to be in the mafia. Each book kind of has its own bigger theme. And then I have the Sinners duet, so There Are No Saints and There Is No Devil. This is a duet about serial killers. There's this girl who kind of becomes the obsession of two rival serial killers, and I have really been wanting to read this because you guys know how much I love books about serial killers. I love these covers. I also have the like original covers with the people on them, but these just look so cool together. I love the contrasting black and white. The next set are all books that I have recently given 5 stars. I've talked about recently how few 5 stars I've had this year. I think in total I've read about 130 books, and at this point I've only had 13 5-star books, and 3 of them happened last week, and that is these 3 books. I actually read all of these in my vlog that I posted last week, where I read 7 books in 7 days. He had me sitting there blushing. I can cure him. It goes from being so like, oh my god, cute, lesbians, romantic, to like nightmare fuel. In this video alone, I now have 3 5 stars. So we have Bloom by Delilah S. Dawson. This is probably gonna be like my favorite book of the year. I cannot stop thinking about it. It is a sapphic cottagecore horror book following these 2 women who meet at a farmer's market and fall into a very cute romance that ends up turning into a nightmare. the way that I'm obsessed with, like, I literally have not stopped thinking about this book for 1 second. Then I have The Patient by Jasper Dit. This is a horror book set in a mental hospital following a patient who has been in isolation because everyone who he comes in contact with ends up killing themselves. And there is a new psychiatrist at the hospital who wants to try to figure out what is going on with this patient. And then I have a romance book that is Butcher and Blackbeard by Bryn Weaver. This one is kind of like a rom-com about serial killers. It is following these two people who are both serial killers, and they meet one day and they decide to have a yearly competition where they each get a target that they have to kill, and then they are competing against each other to kill that person before the other, and they end up falling in love, and it was just so funny. And then this last pairing, I'm gonna be honest, this is a stretch. These are kind of just the leftover books, but they both kind of have gothic vibes to them. We have The 13th Tale and Midnight is the Darkest Hour. Again, like, it's a stretch, but The 13th Tale is about this famous writer. Now that she is elderly, she wants to reveal the truth about her existence and her past. So she gets a young biographer to pen her story, and I just heard amazing things about this book. I've been recommended it so many times, and I actually found this in my thrift store for $1. So I was like, it is fate. I am meant to buy this book. And then we have Midnight is the Darkest Hour by Ashley Winstead. This is her newest release. This is actually my book club book for this month on Patreon, and people have been having very mixed opinions about it, so I'm excited to read it. I think this is gonna be the next book that I start. But this is a thriller set in a southern town following two outcasts. One of them is the preacher's daughter, and the other is like a boy from the wrong side of the tracks. Her and this guy are trying to solve this mystery of like people going missing and dying in town. There is a myth of this mysterious figure called a low man. It is like a vampiric figure. I think this deals a lot with like southern culture and religious trauma, and apparently Twilight. Word on the street. So I'm just very excited to read this and see what I think of it, because everything I've read from Ashley Winstead has been 5 stars. Those were all of the books that I've gotten recently. It was quite a big stack. I didn't realize how much it was until I started like pulling all the books off of my shelf, and then I was like, oh, you actually have a lot of books here. Thank you guys for watching. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe, and check out my Patreon where I post tons of exclusive content. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!